What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome. This is episode 4, I believe now. I'm going to start breaking down teams, what's happened on the off season, the changes on the teams, what I think the record's going to be, how their schedule's looking, all that fun shit. That's what we're about to do. So, of course, why not start with the SEC and start with the reigning national champions? So LSU is returning 3 players on offense and 5 players on defense. I'm not a scientist or a mathematician, but those numbers are not good. LSU had probably the best offense in college football history last year, and returning 3 of 11 players and losing your quarterback, who was the Heisman Trophy winner, that's going to be hard. That's going to be very, very hard to overcome. 5 players on defense returning. It's basically half. The good thing LSU has going for it is it always has 4 or 5-star athletes waiting to start. So I think their defense will be buttoned up. I'm really, really scared of their offense. I don't think their offense is going to be maybe 50% of last year, possibly 60%. And that 60% is stretching, rounding up, as you may say. So moving on down, they lost 4 starters on the offensive line. So they lost 80% of their offensive line starters. That is huge. And the reason that is huge is they lost both starting guards. So blitzes and defensive ends, defensive tackle, just everybody on the defensive line is going to have a field day with this team. They lost their Heisman Trophy quarterback, like I mentioned before. Now, the reason the 4 starters on the offensive line is huge is because no matter what quarterback starts for LSU, it will be their first start. Yeah. So you have 4 brand new starters on the offensive line, and you have a brand new quarterback starting. That's something that's going to take probably 3/4 of the season, maybe even longer, to mesh together. Offensive line is huge. Doesn't get enough credit, and especially in the SEC, with how fast the defenses are, with the blitz of the linebackers, safeties, corners. LSU's going to have some issues. Also, LSU lost their defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach of Baylor. That's pretty huge, too, especially when you have 6 new starters coming in, and the 5 starters who are returning are going to have a new defensive coordinator, probably a new scheme that they're going to have to learn. So a lot of changes are coming. Also, they lost their passing game coordinator, which was actually his title, / wide receivers coach on offense, Joe Brady, who is probably single-handedly the reason their offense was the best offense college football's ever seen last year. He went to the NFL. Again, 3 starters returning, 8 new people, and you just lost the coordinator who made you who you are. Huge loss. Let's see. LSU does recruit well, of course. And currently, LSU is plus 1,800 betting odds in Vegas to win the national championship. That is tied with Florida at 5th. LSU has some really tough games coming up. Let's go ahead and look at their schedule. UTSA Roadrunners. They're going to be probably a 30 to 35 point favorite, if I had to guess. Week 2 is going to be tough. And Texas Longhorns, it's at home, thank God, for LSU fans. But with 4 new starters on the line, a new quarterback, and a new defensive coordinator, and Texas is bringing back a lot of starters and a lot of, you could call them veteran players. Circle that on the calendar, because that's going to be a lot closer of a game than probably a lot of people think. Then they have Rice Owls, Ole Miss Rebels. I don't think Ole Miss will give them too much of a fight, but I think Ole Miss will look better than expected, because I don't think LSU is going to be as good as expected. Then they have Nichols at Florida. I think they lose that. I personally believe they are going to lose at Florida. They might actually lose against Texas. So they could be 2-4 in the first 6 games, 4-2, sorry. In the first 6 games, which could be pretty difficult. At Arkansas, don't have to worry about that. Mississippi State at home, don't have to worry about that. Of course, they always have their bye before Alabama. And then Alabama at home. Good thing it's at home. It's unknown if fans are going to be in the stands. It's unknown how many fans will be in the stands. It's unknown a lot of things right now because of the coronavirus. So home field advantage might not be home field advantage this year just due to the fact that there might not be fans in the stands. I think they lose to Alabama. Um, Following Alabama, they got South Carolina at home, which they'll win that. And then they traveled to Auburn. It's going to be another tough one. And then they're at the following week at A&M. So they end the season away and away against two good teams. And I think A&M's going to give them all they can handle. I think it's going to be a 3-point game either way. I'm almost leading to Texas A&M winning that. I know it's the end of the season. Injuries can happen. There's a lot that can happen. But to go over the 4 games, so Texas, Florida, Alabama, and A&M. So I'm going to go over those. Texas is returning 9 starters on defense and 7 starters on offense. So Texas defense is basically staying the same. Their 7 on offense includes one of the top quarterbacks in the country, Sam Ehlinger. I don't know why it said same. We're going to change that real quick. Sam Ehlinger, he's going to give them problems. He's a dual threat quarterback. The 9 starters on defense, Texas is going to give LSU's offense all kinds of problems. And then you have a quarterback that can scramble, he can pass, and he's returning 7 starters. I think Texas is going to be close. I think LSU might be favored by 7 points, maybe 8 points. But I would take Texas with the points, honestly. Their game against Florida's returning 5 starters on defense and 7 starters on offense. Their 2 starting big defensive tackles are returning. They have 3 strong safeties that will give any quarterback problem. With a new quarterback, they're going to tear it up. Florida has Kyle Trask coming back, who's one of the best passers in the SEC quarterback-wise. The defensive ends of Florida are monsters and will give any offensive line problems, especially an offense with 4 new starters. And Florida, of course, has 2 of the country's best cornerbacks. They always do. I think they lose that game. I think it's going to be maybe a 4 or 5 point game, but I think they lose. I think the spread will be, it'll probably be LSU, LSU +3, +4 maybe. I take Florida in the points. Alabama is returning 7 starters on offense and 5 starters on defense. Of course, they lost Tua Tagovailoa. Hopefully I said that last name right. They do return 2 of the country's best wide receivers and probably the best running back after the Oklahoma State kid. Can't remember his name, but I would say it's probably the second best running back. And they refill all their positions with 5-star athletes. So this with Mac Jones playing against Auburn and Michigan, he looked good in Michigan. I have a feeling he will be the starter. He's a game manager. So that is going to be, I think Alabama goes back to smash mouth football. I think they're going to run. They're going to play action a lot. They're still going to throw because they have so much talent on the edge. But, yeah, I think they go back to smash mouth football. Their defense will be better this year. They're returning their defensive captain, basically, who was injured last year before the season. So he got knocked out. And I think they're going to be really good. Now, Texas A&M, I think, is the sleeper of the SEC. And the reason I think they're a sleeper of the SEC is because they're returning 8 starters on defense and 8 starters on offense. Basically, their whole team's coming back. Jimbo Fisher is going to have them lined up really well. They have Kellen Mond coming back. Kellen Mond ran a shit ton on Alabama. I don't really take much merit into the LSU Texas A&M game at the end of the season last year just because A&M already had so many losses and LSU was going for that number 1 spot in the playoffs. So I think LSU came with all the motivation and A&M just came because they had to come. I don't think they had really anything to do. So, looking back at their schedule, I do think they lose 2-3. So, I guess I'm saying they're going to go 10-2 or 9-3, which isn't a bad season. 10-2 is not a bad season. I just don't see how they get through Texas, Florida, Alabama, and A&M this year. I think they go 2-2 in those games. I just don't know which 2. I think Alabama is definitely one of them. I think Florida is a definite one of them. So I guess Longhorns and Aggies are kind of a coin flip in my eyes. Hopefully this gave you some insight into LSU betting the preseason. Like I said, they're plus 1,800 right now. So if you did want to go put a preseason bet on them, you could. It's basically bet 100 to win 1,800 for them to win the national championship. Right now they're tied in 5th with Florida, like I said. So there's 4 teams ahead of them. I know Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. I want to say Oklahoma might be up there. Everybody's giving props to Oklahoma, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, and thank you for watching. Take care.